In this video essay, we're going to look at the defense of Hereditary, not necessarily as a horror film, because some people would criticize it as not strong enough to be a horror film, that it didn't do what it's supposed to do in terms of frightening people, but perhaps it's more successful as sort of giving people a sense of dread. And within that boundary, it did an effective job, or that's what the proponents would argue. And I'm going to try to argue, even at that level, I still don't think it does too much that hasn't been done before. And even so far as there is, quote, moments of dread, it does rely upon a lot of tricks. So what exactly is the fine difference between, quote, a horror movie that tries to frighten you and one that tries to implant dread? Well, with dread, as far as I understand it, the point here is not that you yourself feel like you're in danger, or that you feel the sense of harm, because of course in Hereditary we have a satanic cult, and again, satanic cults are real and they are dangerous, but the chances of you yourself being the victim of one is really, really small, because why would they pick you of all people to victimize? So from that level, some people keep reporting that Hereditary is keeping them up at nights and they're really frightened to turn off the lights. They can't be in the dark because, of course, somebody could. I didn't really feel that. I didn't go to sleep dreaming about Paimon or anything like that. So it's like, okay, at that level, it may not work. But did it not do a good job of impressing you with a sense of dread? I have to say, not really. I mean, again, I give it a lot of points for just getting to the story right away, because we see the cult members right there at the funeral, and they're already doing these weird smiles. And the characters even ask, like, that's really weird. I didn't know my mother had so many friends. So I guess if we mean by dread, it's like, these people, they're not going to escape their fate. The cult is going to win and Paimon is going to take over. But it's, well, yeah, I mean, Paimon's a supernatural demon with a lot of powers. He's going to win anyway. I think where it falls apart is we have to connect with the family. And that's what people seem to say, is that, this really does a good job of reflecting a lot of anxieties within a family unit, and it's really effective in doing so. But I really never bought the family as a family. I just, aside from the obvious that they don't look like one another, so that was kind of a big problem with me. I was like, they just physically look too separate. But even if we did say, oh, this family, wow, they're in danger, I'm like, okay, so what? I mean, again, it seems like that Ari is sort of playing on people's notions that they know they're watching a horror film, and he stages things pretty effectively in that regard. But that's the thing, is that we've been through this before. Now, that's not to say it would have been better if it was more postmodern or more self-referential like the Wes Craven films. Usually now, horror audiences are so used to a lot of these tropes. You've got to do something really clever to really shake us. And I think something like Don't Breathe is well aware that there have been films like Don't Breathe before, but it still does a very effective job of frightening you, because, again, it tries to anticipate what somebody's going to feel at a certain moment, whereas with Hereditary, it just felt to me he's relying on a very old set of tricks done with the classical horror films by Polanski, Kubrick, and others. And the obvious problem here is, well, I can just watch those films. If I want to see how Polanski is going to give me dread, I'm going to watch a Polanski film. Why do I need to see this film? And I just don't think Ari really answers that question. It's really interesting the way he does use sound and the camera, and the way that shadows and lights are used to fool people. But again, that's the whole point, is that, again, I guess it seems like we're talking about two different audiences. If you're really used to a lot of horror films, you're going to know a lot of these tricks. And so you're going to be like, okay, the tricks were well done, but they've been done before. So why exactly is this such a special film? If people were just saying, this is a well done, quote, dread movie within its own boundaries, I'm saying, okay, that's fine. But they weren't saying that. They were really saying that this was a new age of horror, that he somehow did some Einsteinian breakthrough, that we have like this new revolutionary thing right in front of us. And it's like, no, not really. He's just recycling old tricks. Maybe the way he did it really got a lot of critics really, really excited. But for me, I'm like, okay, we've been here before. I guess the one place I would agree with a lot of critics where he was really good is constraining himself, because we don't see Paimon full blown. And so usually they try to show the monster. In that regard, Hereditary is a little different from most films. Okay, I would grant that, but maybe they just didn't have the budget for monster effects. I mean, it could just be a lot of reasons why we don't see the monster. And, this isn't a unique case. I mean, I think of The Ninth Gate especially. Do we really ever see the devil? Really? Maybe we do. We get a lot of hints, but we don't ever, I think, really see the devil himself. And I like that, but it has been done before about a director constraining himself. It's the same thing with The Shining. We never really see who controls the Overlook. So if that's what's going to make Hereditary so special, that doesn't make sense. That's been done before. other directors have constrained themselves. Even if like they don't constrain themselves, like we do see, quote, a version of Freddy New Nightmare, that doesn't make it a worse film. So I'm still kind of wondering, why are people saying this is such a great film? I mean, yes, sound design is pretty good, the performances are adequate, and so on and so forth, but it's like, a lot of films do that. Why is this so special? I'm still honestly head scratching as to what exactly did Ari do that was so amazing or unique within the genre. But in terms of dread, I guess so. But again, it's just you're using techniques in a certain way. Yeah, you're going to raise the emotion, but I guess I know too many things about film history and film technology, so I know it's like, yeah, you just dim the lights a little bit. Okay. Anything else? So, still not impressed by the dread hypothesis regarding Hereditary. But we'll keep talking about it because, again, clearly this film has at least kicked off a lot of discussion between critics and fans. So, if nothing else, he really has spurred a lot of debate.